Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. What we're concerned with now is this extreme group in the ruling class, right? Think of it as the right-wing fringe of the Rupert Murdoch, George Shultz faction. And we're now looking at the Koch brothers, super rich, multi-billionaires. But they're in the tradition of William F. Buckley, right? William F. Buckley, right-wing CIA, super rich, Wall Street, Greenwich, fantastically wealthy, family, tremendous interest in Latin America, an oppressor, in league with all kinds of juntas of, extreme right-wing military types, death squads, whatever. He sponsored Limbaugh, knowing, of course, the only way you can dupe the masses into cutting their own throat is to use cultural populism. Because as soon as the argument gets to economic policies in any real sense, the right-wing position can't win. I mean, how are you going to convince 44% of U.S. households to cut their own throats on Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security? Well, you've got to whip them up into a hysteria. And, of course, the defense of privilege, right? Beck this week says, the wealthy people in the United States have worked hard for the money they've got. And we should praise the wealthy for their contributions. Yeah, because they bought $1.5 quadrillion of derivatives. But here's what we want to do. Let's point to this tremendous hypocrisy, this tremendous dupery that's going on, where the rich backers remain in the background and continue to pursue their patrician lifestyles while we have these gutter snipe operatives like Limbaugh or, again, O'Donnell in the foreground, or Beck, the alcoholic Beck, of course, right? The piece of human wreckage from the crisis, right? Who can relate to you, and you're supposed to relate to O'Donnell because you've got financial difficulties too, except that she's an agent of finance capital and you hopefully are not. Let's look at these Koch brothers. Now, I'm drawing on this very interesting profile by Jane Mayer in the New Yorker on the Koch brothers, the Kochtopus. The Koch brothers, super rich. Now, who are they? They are the third richest people in the United States in terms of private money, surpassed only by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. After them comes David A.M. Koch and his brother Charlie Koch, I think his name is. Anyway, we find them financing the American Ballet Theater, George Balanchine's ballet operation, hobnobbing with the Trumps, right, with Blaine Trump, that Blaine Trump being the former wife of Donald Trump's brother, Caroline Kennedy Schlossberg, hobnobbing. They get a benefit for them at the posh Tony Metropolitan Opera. They have helped to finance the New York State Theater at Lincoln Center. They're on the board of the American Museum of Natural History. The dinosaur wing at the American Museum of Natural History is named after the Koch brothers. The Metropolitan Museum Foundation Board, right, one of the top niches in New York society, the Koches are there. They're on the board of Sloan Kettering Financial Cancer Center, and so forth. Koch Industries, what do they make? Brawny paper towels, Georgia Pacific, Dixie cups, Lycra, Stainmaster carpets, all the rest of this stuff. And with this money, they have founded the Americans for Prosperity Foundation, through which, with operatives like Peggy Venable, they run the Tea Party. And make no mistake, they micromanage, but not directly. In other words, they're on the phone, but they're not always in every meeting. One of their advisors says, this right-wing redneck stuff works for them. Yeah, it does. This right-wing redneck stuff, cultural populism, guns, God, gays, this is the stock and trade of the Koch brothers. When the New Yorker wanted to talk to them, they were referred to Governor Pataki, former governor of New York, and Mort Zuckerman, the head of U.S. News and World Report, and a huge real estate investor who appears on the McLaughlin group. You get the idea? And now the world that these people live in, right? Do you think these people are they financing the Tea Party, running the Tea Party, right? Dictating what the Tea Party says? I would think that when Beck says you got to tone down your signs and your costumes, that could be an order coming from Koch. That could be an order coming from this guy Huntsman that he thinks is so great. What kind of life do they have? Do you think they can relate to you? Obviously, Obama can't relate to you, can he? No, of course not. But can the Koch brothers relate to you? Well, David went to Deerfield Academy, Great Eastern Prep School. They all went to MIT. David Koch, MIT, Charles Koch, military school. He was uppity, but MIT, took over the company. William, MIT. Freddie was the black sheep. He went to Harvard and then Yale School of Drama. What's their family history? They hate Franklin D. Roosevelt. They hate the New Deal. They love the Austrian school. They love the road to serfdom. And Glenn Beck has come out endorsing them. William and Freddie are in a feud with Charles and David. Charles and David controlled the company. William and Freddie are the outsiders. So they're fighting typically dysfunctional family over greed. Freddie has decided to move to Monaco, Monte Carlo, where there is no income tax, but he owns castles and chateaux in France and in Austria. William's hobby is yachting. He won the America's Cup in 1992, and he keeps his yacht anchored in the south of France. Does that sound anything like your life? You think the values that are good, government policies that are good for these guys are going to be good for you? David was a playboy in New York, of course. He kept his yacht also in the Mediterranean. He's got a house in Southampton. He is now David Koch of New York, Park Avenue, duplex, 9,000 square feet, and Aspen, Colorado, and I guess Southampton and Palm Beach. I think he's got a villa. He's actually got 4 addresses. His place in Palm Beach is called Villa El Sarmiento. And down there they put on a fireworks display done by the Grucci firm. The Grucci Fireworks Company put on a great dazzling fireworks show in Palm Beach in January this year. And all the rich and famous, right, the lifestyles of the rich and famous were bubbling with champagne dreams and caviar fantasies thanks to these reactionaries. Does this sound like your life? Does this sound like anything that you can relate to? You think the policies that are good for them are good for you? Boy, if you do, you're just a hopeless dupe and sucker and gull. So David's a leading libertarian. David Koch, 1980, vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party with Ed Clark. Ed Clark, of course, of Tabor Academy, Dartmouth, and Harvard Law. And they had Murray Rothbard running around. William Buckley, of course, always sneering at everything that goes by. He said these were the anarchist or anarcho-totalitarians. The anarcho-totalitarians. They want a totalitarian government, but anarchist. In other words, liberty is license. The essence of your liberty is the right to exploit and oppress others. That's libertarianism. And these are the founders of the Cato Institute. We'll get to that in a minute. The Koches have founded the Cato Institute. Great stuff. Back in a minute.